Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I'm very excited to have my friend and former podcast interview guest on the show. His name is Jason Pirro, and Jason and I have known each other for a long time. Jason and his wife are actually members in my multifamily boardroom mastermind, and he's got a very interesting story. It's not the traditional path that you might see going from self-ownership to syndication. And so really excited to get into that with him. Jason, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be back.
Of course. So let's, since it's been such a long time since you've been on the show, I think let's just start over as if we haven't and just talk about, your story, how you got started in real estate, and then bring us to today.
Sure. So my wife, Nadia, and I started buying real estate 19 years ago, almost to the day. It was like a week before 9/11. We bought our first duplex, and she was actually still in college. I finished up, we saved every penny we could, and we just started buying duplexes, quads, and we'd occasionally get the 20, 30, 40 unit type of property. But both were able to quit our medical sales jobs by 2012. And we had, at that time, had 300 units approximately with no partners, just us, and kept growing our business, buying more property. Fast forward to, I think it was 2018.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Can you drill down a little bit in how you were able to buy 300 units, where the money came from, what sorts of strategies you used? Let's do that if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay.
So when we started buying, we lived like no one else. I mean, we were in our early 20s, and I thought, man, if we just lived on one person's salary and just pummeled money into down payments on property. So we were very fortunate and blessed that we had really good paying W-2 jobs. She was a pharmaceutical sales rep. I worked in medical device sales, and we just saved every penny we could and said, we're going to keep buying real estate. And so we would save up down payments. And when 2008 hit, we started doing the BRRRR Method on small rentals, 2 to 4 unit type properties before the BRRRR Method was really a thing. But, we had some cash, had some lines of credit, and we just went.
By the way, if you're the one person out there that doesn't know what that is, that's buy, renovate, and refinance. So, or remodel and refinance. But okay, please continue.
Yeah. So we just kind of went all in and just sacrificed really hard early on to just put every bit of profit back into the business, into growing it. We basically had every bit of spare change that we had, we used to save up for down payments. And, we had some owner financing and things like that along the way as well. So we were able to get some creative financing.
Any hard equity, hard money lenders at all, or did you use traditional lenders the whole time? Or
so interestingly, I was very risk averse to using a hard money lender while we had day jobs. I just felt that, we were road warriors, out in the field all day long. It was a mental block I had at the time that we were afraid to use other people's money. So we didn't really utilize that strategy until we quit our day jobs. And then we started using hard money.
What did you have to sacrifice? I don't want to move past this, you getting, 300 units?
Yeah.
I don't want to move past that without asking you a few questions, because I think people are curious about that. Especially, I love the dynamic of how the two of you did it. And of course you both had to be on board. Did you guys each play a role? Was it primarily you? Was it, talk about the roles first.
Sure. So I think, I was in sales, and I think the best sale I ever made was convincing my wife that real estate was the answer. So she bought into this vision, said, look, we can buy real estate and we'll be able to retire and can retire early and travel the world. And that was our goal at the time. And it was, in terms of sacrifice, it was financial. I mean, we were young, making really good money, and a lot of our friends were taking the great vacations, buying fancy cars, buying big houses. And we just stayed on this path of, let's continue to buy real estate. And part of our growth pattern was that, like, I suck at maintenance. I'm like terrible. I'm not handy. And so we were painting our first unit And my wife Nadia is a great painter. She's fixing things, and she's like, "Get out of the way! You're terrible at this." So she was painting and cleaning. I was doing the leasing. This is before we had employees, but we would do a lot of that stuff ourselves. I would do the kind of the property management side of it. She would work on the renovations, and it wasn't a ton of it because a lot of this stuff was turnkey. But I really was like the vision of it. I kept pushing to buy more and work with the sellers, and she was really keen in on the
operations.
Yeah.
So did you do the cars and the houses and the vacations, or did you just live below your means while you were doing this ramp up?
Well, we get to a point, all of that sacrifice and that we did early on, I think took a toll on us as, on our marriage, our psyche, things like that eventually we said, hey, we can't sacrifice forever. What if one of us dies tomorrow? You do have to live life. And it was a shift in mindset to where, look, you can enjoy the nice things. We're never flashy, but we decided, hey, we can start taking real vacations and, build the house of our dreams and do all these things.
How far in were you when you made that, when you decided to look at lifestyle instead of just success?
Probably about 8 or 9 years when we,
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it was a long road. It was a long road. But we were very young at the time too. I mean, I'm 43 now, so you do the math. I mean, we're in our early and mid 20s. And so probably by the time we got into our 30s, we were like, all right, we have to start living a little bit. And now I think, we've realized you can do both. You can have the life of your dreams. And you don't have to sacrifice everything to get there.
No, absolutely. No, that's now, I just had a thought and it escaped me, of course. I just remember going back to my own personal thing. I remember having 500 doors and still living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Yeah. In fact, and then I moved to a condo. It was a condo that I owned, but then I moved to the 1-bedroom was an apartment, and I traded for free rent for a balloon business that I had. And then the second place was a 2-bedroom condo that I owned, but that's where my kid got born. I mean, by that time I probably had 700 or 800, mostly houses and some apartments, but, anyway, that's you guys, those of you listening, you suck it up for a few years. So, live like other people won't for a few years, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And so anyway, so you sacrificed some things. You kind of each fell into your own roles. You both you were able to sell her on the vision, then she incorporated the vision. And obviously, if you did it for 8 or 9 years, you guys were both in it full bore. And that's awesome. So please continue from there on your story, please.
Sure. So yeah, we started living a little bit better and just got to a breaking point in life where I'm like, I gotta quit this day job. And there was a kind of a big deal I did around the time that, again, this is all stuff we own, no partners, but it was about 72 units. And that was the result of a 1031 exchange. And I was able to quit, get fired, whatever it was, but I left. I was able to leave my corporate life, and that was a huge adjustment for like 5 years. I mean, it was really hard to be comfortable in my own skin as my own boss.
Really.
That dream, but it took a while to kind of wrap my head around that. And
so as soon as when you quit, it was the result of a win, a 72 unit property that you sold or bought.
I bought. So I sold off.
Okay.
Yeah, I sold off about 40 or 50 units to a large employer in our area. And then I had a little bit of cash that I'd saved up, and a little bit of cash that as a result of that sale that we could 1031 into some better property. I traded like D property for B property, and it worked out really well. Yeah.
Nice. And so once you actually had that freedom, that was challenging. Interesting.
It was. Yeah. I mean, like the honeymoon wears off. You're like, all right, what am I supposed to do? How am I as a boss, like directing people, and how am I as a husband and a partner with my wife? Like, it's all this new identity that you're trying to figure out. And I struggle with that for a little bit.
Right. Okay. And so what changed between then and now, or please continue in the story.
Yeah, sure. So, from 2012 for several years, we just kept buying property and selling off some property and buying, and it was great. And I kept toying with this idea of syndication. Mm-hmm. or joint ventures and partnering. And, and I don't want to, swell your ego, but, we started listening to your podcast, became a guest on your podcast. And I know you called me up out of the blue and said, hey, I'm putting together this mastermind. You want to come down to Florida? We're going to hang out in my living room for a weekend. And there was, I think 12 of us, 15
16.
of us,
16
of us
yeah.
in your living room. And there was just, as an amazing group of people. And I think we were all sharing ideas and sharing experiences. And there was just couple mental blocks I had that I needed to get over. And I thought, our friend Glenn Gonzalez said something that resonated really deeply with me. Our friend Maureen Miles said something, to me. I think your brother, Albert, was there, and he's had a couple, nuggets of wisdom. I'm like, oh my God, it makes total sense now. What am I doing? And I just kind of got my head out of my own butt and was like, all right. So I went home, syndicated my first deal, joint ventured a bunch of other things, and then just started syndicating. And we still like doing both things, syndicating and, doing our own deals. But it was just getting out of my own, my own mental space to,
love it.
Some of that stuff.
So those of you who don't know what he's talking about, I've got a compound here in Florida, and we've got about 2 acres, and it's plenty of room. And so I decided, because I've been in masterminds my whole life, and gotten so much incredible value from being in them, that I decided to create my own, and it's called the Multifamily Boardroom. And if I get one of the 2 people that I'm wooing right now, we'll be over 10 billion in assets in there. And of course, we've had to go live stream, but we meet 3 times a year. But the first one was at my house, and I invited Jason and some other hitters that I liked and I knew were givers and wanted to help other people. And it was just incredible. I just, it was just something I did for me, really, of being selfish, because I knew the value in it. And then I'm like, what, I've got to formalize this. And now, like I say, we'll be over 10 billion in assets, I believe, here shortly. And of course, now, we meet 3 times a year for a couple of days. We have a lot of fun. The last time we met in person, we fed 1,000 families here in Sarasota, and we do cool stuff. It's, but you want to be around people that think what you think is easy. I'm sorry, people that think what you think is hard is easy. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it for myself. And, there's always another level. There's always people. There's people in the group now that have 10,000 units, and they know things that we don't know. And so, and so you want to, for your own selves, those of you listening, you want to be, get yourself in a group that's going to help you do that. Now we encourage networking in my 2-day boot camps, and we're facilitating it actually in the next one that's coming up in October. So you've been to one or more of my boot camps, haven't you, Jason?
I've been to a few. Yeah. I've been lucky enough. You've had me on stage for some of the panels, and
right.
I think the, boot camp, everybody should try a boot camp, whether it's yours or
right.
someone else's. I think just the networking and the people you meet, you're one connection away from, people that can be a partner or can be a mentor or a resource. It's just an amazing opportunity to meet people from across the country that you can help, that maybe you're providing a hand up to, and then people that, can help you. And it's just such a giving community. Yeah. We miss the face-to-face events, but it's just great. I think I can't count the number of friends that Nadia and I have made by just as a result of being part of the mastermind group, going to boot camps, and just the networking is it's just next level. It's really amazing.
Right. Now, of course, we've had to pivot and do, breakout rooms and Zoom and whatnot, but even people have been raving about those. And so that's, if you're interested, you can still attend my boot camp. I think for $97, and it's 2 full days, no selling anything. So it's really a duh. But anyway, and yeah, we've had Jason on stage more than once, and we do panels, and we have hitters on stage like Jason. So Jason, you had that epiphany at my boot camp, at my mastermind, and you went out and started doing syndications. And tell me where bring us to today.
Sure. And like anything, when you start out and things, it's never perfect. It's sloppy. We our first syndication, we as a general partner, Nadia and I, my wife and I had become friends with a local business person that, just has a network of people that would want to invest with us, and has some resources in terms of some back office help. And we knew we wanted to do something. So there's a natural fit. We found our first property, but we took far too little in terms of ownership. We didn't necessarily model the deal out properly. It works and everything works and everybody's happy. But we learned a lot, learned a lot by doing, learned a lot by, talking to the friends and colleagues that we met in this business. But
Let me stop you. Let me stop you. I apologize, but I want to just mention something to add on to what you just said, guys. That first deal, even the second deal, sometimes you're going to likely do it with someone called a sponsor, someone that's done it before, someone that's signed on Fannie or Freddie debt, and you're very often going to get a smaller piece than you normally would, and it's okay because you're off to the freaking races. Wait till you hear what Jason's been up to since then. And most people that they do their first deal and then, of course it's been hard to find deals over the years, but how much have you done since then? Or maybe I'm
yeah, I mean, we're over, we're over 1,000 units now.
Wow.
Right now that's all in Erie, but we officially got our first, I don't know when this will air, but yesterday, September 2nd, we got our first deal under contract in Cleveland.
Oh, no kidding. Fantastic.
Yeah, so super pumped about that. And actually one of our fellow boardroom members is going to partner with me on the deal and bring his investors into the mix.
No kidding. How many doors in Cleveland?
104 doors.
Okay. Fantastic.
Nice kind of medium-sized property, but big enough to feel comfortable going into a new market. And
awesome.
It's only an hour and 20 minutes up the road. So it's not like that far for us, and we can still manage that in-house, but yeah,
we like that market too.
Yeah, great market, a lot of opportunities. So,
awesome.
I mean, kind of sidebar, but I like the secondary and tertiary markets because with this whole COVID thing, it's a little bit more recession resistant. Doesn't mean it's recession proof or that it's unaffected, but the fundamentals sort of have stayed.
No, you're right. And there's an exodus out of the cities for sure. And will likely continue. And yeah, we had a deal in Shaker Heights in Cleveland under contract, and we tried to renegotiate after COVID, and somebody came in and paid an extra $1.5 million. Like, no, we're back, we're out. But
I think I know what deal that was. It wasn't me that bought it, but
that was nice. I really liked that asset. I was really looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and doing something with it. But it is what it is. There's lots of stuff out there, and there's going to be a lot more. Mm-hmm. So you're up to 1,000 doors as a syndicator, which is fantastic, man. I mean, that's just absolutely fantastic. So, what are you going to keep investing close to home like that? Is that the plan? I know you like to, you did everything in Erie, Pennsylvania forever. And now, you've stepped outside, put your toe outside the water.
Yeah. Well, I've started drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. And so I think the things that are close to Cleveland, Columbus, we are close enough that I get what I want, which is I can still be the quarterback of the deal, still maintain control through our company. But I've met a lot of folks that have asked for experience or sponsorship on deals. So evaluating a property in Florida right now,
nice.
With some other markets. Yeah. And so definitely willing and able to explore those other areas, but I kind of had to get out of my own way and realize that, there's certain things I have to give up in order to branch out that much further. And that's just more about my own mental block than the own ability to do it. But
that was incredibly honest and open, my friend, because you're right. And it is a challenge for a lot of people to get out of their backyard because they feel like they lose me as originally as well. It was really tough for me because you want that control and not realizing that you can still have a pretty high measure of control as long as you're aligned with a good third-party property manager that really that's a partner, as it were, and you've got regular communication. Now, are you going to manage that Cleveland asset yourself, or are you going to third party it?
No, we're gonna manage it ourselves.
Oh wow!
We're close enough that our asset manager, we've already got a system set up for him to be able to be in Cleveland, boots on the ground.
Fantastic. Is it a value add? You're going to do some CapEx there, or is it just going to raise the rents? It's
an interesting project. It's a 100-year-old building, and this current owner, older guy, he was an attorney by trade. I don't want to give away too much. He had some really interesting background to him, but he over improved these properties. They are like granite, marble, crazy woodwork. Did over improved everything, but the rents are all ridiculously below market, and it is an excellent location, very close to Shaker Heights. Excellent location, and so the tenant base is doctors, law students, and grad students.
Wow!
And, so it's much more of a managerial play. Like he did rubs on the new tenants, but never wanted to initiate rubs on older tenants, and they're several $100s below market. So even just a very modest and
Good for you.
conservative management play, there's some nice upside there.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. So, you know, and what, tell me, you know, let's talk about motivation for a minute. What are you and Nadia's primary drivers or motivators? What is it that you're really looking for to ultimately achieve, and accomplish, you know, moving forward? I mean, you've already had incredible success. What's driving that?
I think initially, you know, for us, it was the freedom and the money, but that dries up after a while, right? I mean,
Right.
You can only spend money so fast, and it's really not, I mean, it's nice to have nice things, but it doesn't really bring you joy or value. It's just, I mean, we all want to, you want to have a nice house and a nice car, but you know, you can feel empty if that's all your motivation is. So for us, you know, now it's about being able to give back and being able to have the freedom to live life like we want. Yes, if we want to go away for a month, we're going to do that, but also to be able to give back, to have the financial means to give back. And you know, when you mentioned earlier, the mastermind last fall in Sarasota, and being able to feed 1,000 families for Thanksgiving, like that's the type of stuff that's hugely impactful and hugely satisfying on a personal level, to know that you're making a difference. So for us, it's you know, the entrepreneurship, like the end goal or the end means of the money in these deals, allows us to give back, allows us, you know, to have the nice things and have that freedom. But, you know, there's a certain sort of, you know, self-gratifying joy that comes with, you know, when you're an entrepreneur and you're creating deals, and it's nice to have money, but it's also really, really nice to give back and make an impact on the world.
That's what life's about, brother. And that's what I was hoping. That's how I was hoping you were going to answer that question. I assumed you would, but I was, you know, I knowing you as well as I do, you know, that's the answer I was looking for. So you self-manage your whole portfolio?
So far, yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. Talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with self-management, because you're actually an anomaly in that regard. Now, I will say this: most people start self-managing if they buy a small property, 2 to 20 doors, and then ultimately, you know, the goal is to go larger and bring in third-party property management. And then ultimately, after you've got a few thousand doors, you go right back full cycle and you buy or build your own management company. So you've pretty much self-managed the entire time, yes?
Yeah. And
which is a thankless job.
It can be. And, you know, people ask me, why do we do that? I didn't know any better. I mean, we were looking up to landlords that had 20, 30 units at the time. And we just thought that that's the way it was supposed to be, that you just manage your own property. And so we just sort of grew into that, where we built this company that manages our own property. And that can be very financially rewarding, because I think there's an extra layer of control that you have over your people. So manage your people. And we've grown it enough into a place where we have, you know, an office manager, an asset manager, property manager, operations manager, all of these things. And I think, so as an owner, whether you're syndicating or buying on your own, having that level of control is nice. Now, the downside is that, you know, maybe you're too close to the fire sometimes. If things go wrong, you know, you're going to be in it and you're going to hear about it. But that can be a good thing. You know, if somebody, you know, no one gets things perfect 100% of the time. So, you know, we've had property manager or an operations manager maybe misfire communications with a tenant. And I don't love dealing with troublesome situations, but, you know, in this day and age where everybody wants to air their grievances on social media, you know, that's the good thing, is you can probably keep some of that bad press away. If somebody had a maintenance problem and they felt that they weren't being addressed clear enough, you know, you can hop on the horn with them and control the messaging, and you can get ahead of a problem. But yeah, property management can be a thankless business, because people only call you when they're pissed off.
Yeah, they don't call you to say how much they love you when you're a landlord. No, I'm afraid you don't get many of those calls. You do, but they're not
But it makes you, you know, but it makes you better, and I think it makes you a better operator. You know, and it helps you really understand the numbers in much more true fashion. But I will say that, you know, but sometimes you'll get some correspondence from a tenant that really just, you know, is heartwarming, and it keeps, you know, because you get beat up. You can get beat up every day of the week, all day, by tough situations. We had a tenant move out, and this was maybe a C asset, and we got this long, beautiful letter, and it brought tears to my eyes. A few weeks ago, this tenant thanked us for taking a chance on him. He had, you know, had some issues and came, you know, through a rehab program, that said if we didn't take a chance at renting to him, he would be on the streets and probably dead by now. And he had to move. He said, but he had a safe, clean, well-maintained place to live. We always treated him with respect. And he got a promotion with his job and was moving up to Buffalo. And, I don't want to take any of that credit. I mean, I think it's really, he was deflecting his own, success onto us. But it was heartwarming to know that somebody really appreciated what we did, because you don't always get that kind of love from
no you don't. And when you do, it is a beautiful thing. Yeah. I will say that. And these are not leases, these are people. And I will tell you, as we're headed into some real pain in this country with the recent moratorium. How many of your residents, on a percentage standpoint, do you feel are either suffering or capitalizing on this moratorium?
Well, so it's a rounding error that takes up way more space in my head than it should. So out of 1,000 units, we had 2 people.
Wow.
Gaming the system and just being like, screw you, we're not paying. And we were able to finally lean hard enough on the one girl to say, hey, look, when this thing, whether the thing, it was supposed to end in Pennsylvania on August 31st.
Right.
So fortunately, she moved. Otherwise, she'd still be camping out because it's just been recently extended. But, now they have to prove. I mean, she was working the whole time, spent her money. We joke around on beer and fireworks. Everybody who, in our city, that's what
big screen TVs. The ones that are unemployed as well, $600 extra a week. My God, they're making more money, sometimes double than when they were working. Why work?
So they, you're now able to file evictions. The tenants have to meet certain guidelines to be able to have this eviction.
Right. They have to. They can make. But the issue is, though, and it's all being worked out right now. There'll be a form they fill out. They can declare certain things. Now, I don't think there's going to be any verification process. If they make the declaration, you pretty much have to honor it if they do it properly, is what I read. It could be wrong, but what have you heard differently?
No, I haven't heard much as far as the declaration is concerned, but I do know that they have to say or prove that they have exhausted their efforts to receive government assistance. So in the case of these 2 individuals that didn't pay us, they refused to sign the CARES Act paperwork. So we have facilitated a process in-house to where the folks that are struggling and falling behind on rent have been able to get this CARES Act money, which is quite generous, actually up to about $4,500. So there's this huge ability to, for these folks that are maybe out of work, struggling a little more than the average person, to get assistance. And these folks just flat out refuse. So hopefully the district justices, the judges that we go in front of, recognize the folks that are playing games, because at the end of the day, our folks that are struggling will work with anybody on a payment plan. Nobody wants a vacancy, right? But the people that are just gaming the system, they've got to go. And that's I don't think anybody would feel bad for those folks that are just trying to take advantage of the situation. And we'll all work with anybody that.
No, I agree with everything you just said. And the problem, and I always look for the problems, and that's not like that I'm a negative person, but it's to hopefully coach and help people around them. And I just hope that there's some sort of a verification process, because I feel like there might not be, just like with the PPL loan. You could pretty much just go in and borrow, they loan billions and billions and billions without really any, with very little,
there's no verification, right?
No, that's the point. Yeah, I was losing the word here, but very little verification of all. You just made declarations, you got the money, and I'm hoping that these people can't go in court and just make declarations and then get away from being evicted. I hope that there's some proving that has to happen, but we'll see. We'll see what the forms look like, and hopefully there's penalties if they. Hopefully even criminal penalties if they lie. I know there's criminal penalties if a landlord ignores it. It's a felony if you ignore the declaration and evict somebody. So hopefully that's on both sides of that equation, not just on the landlord, the evil landlord side.
We'll let you know in a week, because we have a handful of eviction hearings next week. And
no kidding. Yeah.
And we always tell people too, even through this time frame, that, hey, look, our goal is not to evict you. Our goal is to help you. But most of these agencies that provide emergency housing funding require a court-ordered eviction paperwork. And so we try to coach them through that process. And then even work out very generous payment plans. I mean, really at the end of the day is just getting rid of a deadbeat, somebody that is clearly working or has the income and just spend it on, beer, fireworks, big screen TVs, whatever the case would be.
Right. Agreed. Well, we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing what that paperwork looks like. And, and I will tell you, that is definitely one advantage to you self-managing, because I know that, we work with some large management companies, and it's harder for them to get through all this, especially if they're in multiple states where your boots on the ground, you're getting these things cleaned up. And I know in one example, we're having a challenge with one of our assets, getting some people, getting the evictions going, just because of the bureaucracies involved, but not just with the courts, but also with the management company to move forward. So I'm glad to hear that you're not having those challenges. Well, listen, brother, I let me see what else I want to ask you. Yeah, that's a good question. How are you maintaining that balance, especially since you're both working the business? How do you make sure that you still have an intimate relationship, and that you're still spending time with your kids, and that you're still paying attention to what's most important?
Sure. Well, this has been like an ongoing, evolution of 20 years, and I think we've, like any marriage, any relationships, trial and error. And I think for us, we just the other night we had movie night with the kids. So, they're in front of their screens, and half the time during this pandemic, they wanted to eat in their bedrooms and be on the phone with their friends. We said, look, put your phones away. And that includes us trying to lead by example. So setting our phones down, setting our computer down. And even if we're just camped out in front of the TV, trying to be engaged. And so we try to, as a family, make time. That's hard with teenagers, because they really don't want to spend time with us, but we try to take what kind of time we can get. We do have little traditions that we try to keep going every year. So before school starts, we would always go away for a long weekend, just to kind of bond as a family. And, traveling is a little limited right now with the shutdown, but we were able to find a great place a few hours up the way in Michigan and take a long weekend that we can kind of, disconnect from everything else and just be us. And so so we try to do a lot of that as much as we can with the kids, plan vacations and things that we can look forward to. So even when we get caught up in the throes of our day to day, and you know how it is when you're in the middle of doing a deal, sometimes you're inside of this tornado of all this crazy activity. So we try to make sure that we have things to look forward to, like big vacations or big getaways. But, as a couple, as a family, still trying to do, eating out, having date night, having intimate conversation with our spouse, and just saying, hey, how was your day? Like, what's going on? And listening, even if you're tired and you have your own junk, just, your partner, your spouse, your kids, they want to be heard, and just getting them to open up. And that's, I think that's been even more important during the shutdown, because, bad habits can take form. You can eat like crap and, not hit the gym the way you're supposed to. And so, really the thing for us is just trying to be able to communicate and be patient with each other, not being afraid to say, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up, and, or I'm been a real jerk lately, but you and our relationship is what's important, not all this other stuff. So if I've screwed up, tell me how here's how I'm going to try and be better, but what else can I do? How have you felt from the way I've been treating you, and be ready for, open and honest criticism. That's hard. I mean, it's hard as a business partner, and that's certainly hard as a spouse or a parent,
That's good advice, buddy. That's really good advice. Tiffany and I were taking walks for a long time, and we've kind of fell off again. I hate it, because I told her I want to keep doing this because it was so connecting just to go for a walk. The symbolic psychological component of just walking the same direction, felt good, and then we'd get in some deep conversation, and it was just beautiful. And so I think you've inspired me to push to do that again. Well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show. You've added tons of value, and it's great to see you. Please give your bride a hug for me, and we'll hopefully see each other at a mastermind event one of these days soon, not just on Zoom like this. But thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411.